everybody, and welcome to episode 73 of Daisy Knits. I'm Daisy, and we're hanging out here in the floor of my basement today. So I hope y'all are having a great week, and I'm glad you came to sit with me. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for sitting with me. I'm thrilled that you came back to hear my little slice of craziness. So, I have a few things finished. Depending on how you classify it, I have 2, maybe 3 things finished. Are you ready? Obviously, can you tell the first one? I'm so excited. I bounded off this morning. I'm a little bit later recording than I had wanted to because I was binding it off this morning while I was sitting having the oil changed in the van and, life. Anyways, my Pure Joy is done. Do you see this? This thing is huge. Look at that. My socially acceptable blanket is finished. I will fair warn you, if you are working this pattern, check your gauge and be mindful of your yardage. I used a lot more yardage than I think was called for. I think the pattern says you need 750 yards, and I used like 815 yards. So, the main body colorway is Long Stocking from Leading Me in Fiber Arts, and I have 8 grams left. That's it. 8 grams. The Hot Pink is from Fiber Nymph. It's her bedazzled base, and I have 11 grams left out of full skeins. So, fair warning, I'm really glad I didn't switch to the purple, because I would have totally ran out. There's no way. I measured and my gauge is like half an inch off, or half a stitch off. No, I'm probably a whole stitch off. Let me think about this. I might be a whole stitch off. I don't know. My gauge is slightly off. I don't know if it's off enough to account for how much yardage I use, but it is off a bit. I also think that if you are running low, you easily could shorten up and just stop when you start running out of yarn. This last wedge in that last color, to me, is really big. It would not be a difficult thing to just bind off when you're done. So, it's a very easy pattern to compensate that issue for. However, like I said, I love it. It's nice and big, and it's finished. So, the knitting is done. My ends are woven in. It's not photographed yet, and it's not blocked. However, I will be honest, it's not going to get blocked anytime soon because I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it this afternoon when I have to go out and run some errands. I'm going to just wear it, and when it gets dirty and I need to wash it is probably when it will finally actually get officially finger blocked for the first time. So, all honesty, not happening yet. However, I do want to get some photographs and get it up in my project page. So, I finished this morning. However, Easter morning, we got up and we did our whole thing. We had a lovely meal. But I had a hankering for something quick, and I wanted to have a finished project. I wanted just a quick knit to feel that satisfaction of binding off and saying, done. I hope somebody else has this hankering, this urge every once in a while, but I did. So I went and I perused my stash. I perused my stash. I perused my library, and I found Blanket Bob. That is the pattern name. It's called Blanket Bob. And I found some really old handspun. So if you look, my handspun is not the best. There's some wibble wobbles, and there's no curly Q backs. I will say that. There's not. But I spin for the joy of spinning. So my yarn by nature tends to be fluffy and slightly underspun, and it blooms. I'm so sorry. Let me silence this real quick. Okay. So my yarn is not perfect by far. I'm not a fabulous spinner, and most of my yarn comes out to be more DK worsted area. And I don't fight it anymore. I used to try to be like, oh, I need fingering weight, because that's what I prefer to knit with. But I've given it up, and I'm just rolling with what comes off my wheel. So I pulled this guy, pulled him out. I didn't pull him out. I pulled the yarn out, and I knit him up in an evening. So he's like a little, well, he's a blanket. So he's flat and smushy, but he's like a little monster too. I kind of think of him as like a shadow monster. He's the little guy who hangs around. My husband says he looks like Igor. He's all hunched and crazy. He did not get a face put on. And I was kind of on the fence about doing that anyways, just because I wasn't sure what exactly I wanted to do. Like I said, I finished him Sunday night. I laid him on the kitchen table, and I went to bed. Monday morning when I got up, Bob was gone. Nobody was taking ownership. Nobody claimed that they made off with him. I tossed the kids' bedrooms. I looked all around and could not find Bob. Tuesday night, my daughter came down to the basement and went into the laundry room to get something out of there, and Bob was hanging out on the dryer. I'm not sure why exactly Bob was hanging out on the dryer. The best guess is one of the kids had been snuggling with him and went and pulled something out of the dryer and left him there. So obviously, he doesn't need a face to wander our house. He's here. This is Bob. And he's a lot of fun. I find myself fondling him. I will say his legs are supposed to be a little bit longer, and one is supposed to be shorter than the other, so you can tell they're uneven. But he was just a fun, quick little pattern. And I kind of have the overwhelming urge to make a couple more of these. I don't think I could give them just to any kid, simply because he's kind of a different little toy. You know, he's not the typical toy, but I think I've got some kids I know that would be thrilled to have some blanket Bobs. So you might see more of these. And like I said, completely done in one evening. Super proud of myself. Crank that bad boy out. So, I did Blanket Bob. I did my Pure Joy, and I finished some yarn. Super proud of myself. I'm trying to think what day. So I did Bob on Sunday. Monday, I dusted off my e-spinner, and I sat down and I looked at what I had all around. My mom wanted a braid of fiber, and she wants me to spin it. So I needed to get my wheel going, and I needed to get that kind of cranking through. So I cleaned up the e-spinner, I looked at what I had, and I had a braid of fiber, and it's not a full 4 ounces. I don't even know how much this is. But I had split it, and I had spun one single, a half, and set it aside. And I was partially through the second half of it. So I sat down Monday, and I spun that. And then Tuesday, I sat down and I applied them. And they are done. It has not been washed. And I haven't done any measuring. I have no idea how much is here. What I can say, though, is this one's finished. And the color, I feel like, is really kind of being blown out. It's got a lot of white in it. And then it's got a beautiful sea foamy green teal and a corally pink. So, 1, 2, 3. Done. I'm proud of myself. As far as Master Knitter, I didn't do a whole lot. I cleaned up my bibliography a little, and I read through a book report and kind of cleaned that up a little. That's all I've done. So not a whole lot there, but a little bit. I'm hoping this week to have a little bit more time with that. Sock Madness round 3 closed this morning. So now the waiting game starts of when do we start our next round. We don't know. The mods know. And it's kind of a part of the game is you have no idea when it drops. So we know it's coming sometime in the next week. So I'm sure in the next week you will see more socks on my needles. But that's really all I have this week to share with y'all. I got a lot of things finished. So you got to see some new shiny things. A finished big one. Until my pattern drops, I'm going to be spinning a little, Master Knitter, and I am going to pull out the test knit, and I will get back to that, so hopefully I can finish that in the next month and a half or 2 months, you know, as much as I putz around with it. So, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to y'all next week. All my contact information's at the end. If you miss something, don't hesitate to hit me up. Otherwise, see ya.